I thought I knew my wife completely. Until that day at the gym. 3 hours. Every day. I trusted her. I believed her. Until I met the man she called her personal trainer. What I discovered broke my world. And I'm about to show you everything. Before I reveal what happened, hit like, share, and subscribe because this story isn't just mine. It's a warning. My name is Tavian Locke, and for the longest time, I thought I knew exactly who I was married to. I thought I understood her every thought, every glance, every little habit. But that illusion, my entire sense of trust, shattered one ordinary evening, and I didn't even see it coming. My wife, Saren Vale, had always been meticulous about her fitness. She went to the gym regularly, yes, but 3 hours. Every single day. It started to feel excessive. I told myself I was just overthinking, that maybe she was just passionate about health. I wanted to believe that. I needed to believe that. In the beginning, I remembered the way we used to laugh together. The way our conversations would stretch late into the night. How her hand would find mine without thinking. Those small moments made me feel safe, like nothing could ever break us. But then the small, nagging doubts started creeping in, almost like shadows in the corners of my mind. I'd catch her texting at odd hours, disappearing behind locked screens when I approached. She'd laugh it off, say it was nothing, that I was imagining things. And for months, I listened. I trusted. I hoped. But hope has a fragile way of breaking when confronted with the truth. It started with subtle things, her lingering a little too long at the gym, the way her phone would vibrate constantly, the secretive glances at messages that she thought I couldn't see. And every time I asked, she reassured me with that familiar, sweet smile, and I fell for it. I wanted to fall for it. I wanted to keep the peace, keep the life we'd built. But deep down, I couldn't shake that growing, gnawing feeling that something wasn't right. The worst part? I felt powerless. The more I tried to convince myself that I was overreacting, the more I started noticing things I couldn't ignore. A laugh that didn't sound like it was meant for me. A touch that lingered where it shouldn't. Little secrets. Hidden in plain sight until the world she presented to me started crumbling piece by piece. And in that crumbling, I realized that betrayal isn't something you just feel, it's something that grows quietly, invisibly, until it explodes. That's when I first thought about him, the man she called her personal trainer. I didn't know what I'd find. I didn't know if I was ready. But that 3-hour gym routine, that innocent facade of workouts and dedication, had become the thread that would unravel everything I thought I knew. And I had a choice. Turn away or see the truth for myself. I couldn't stop thinking about him, the so-called personal trainer, Jodek Holt. The name alone felt foreign in the world I thought I knew. Every day, I watched Saren prepare for the gym with that same meticulous ritual, as if nothing could possibly shake her routine. But I started noticing the small cracks, the ones you can't ignore once you see them. The lingering glances at her phone, sudden bursts of laughter when she thought I wasn't watching, the way she'd run her fingers through her hair, nervous or flirtatious, I couldn't tell which. And with every passing day, the gnawing feeling in my chest grew. Something was wrong. I didn't want to see it, but my gut screamed that I had to. It started with tiny details. A message notification would appear and vanish too quickly. Her tone over the phone seemed different, light, teasing, like it belonged to someone else. She would come home smelling faintly of some cologne I didn't recognize. I tried to brush it off, telling myself I was being paranoid, that maybe I was imagining things. But intuition has a brutal clarity when it's right, and mine was screaming at me. One evening, I caught a glimpse of her messages while she left her phone on the counter. Just a few words. Can't wait to see you later. My stomach sank. I wanted to convince myself it was innocent, but even in that fleeting glance, I could feel the lie breathing between the lines. That same night, I stayed up, replaying every interaction, every laugh, every touch, searching for patterns, searching for confirmation, and I found them. The subtle flinches when I'd enter the room, the sudden preoccupation with work calls, the way her excitement for the gym felt. Too eager, too personal. My thoughts became obsessive. I would watch quietly from a distance, pretending to be calm, pretending to trust. Every text she sent, every time she left for those 3-hour sessions, my mind raced with questions I wasn't ready to voice aloud. I wanted proof. I wanted undeniable evidence before I confronted the woman. I loved on the man who might be destroying everything I believed in. It was during those moments, sitting alone in silence, that I realized suspicion isn't just a feeling, it's a trap. It gnaws at you. It keeps you awake. It twists reality until every glance, every word, every gesture becomes a potential betrayal. And once you've seen the first sign, there's no going back. You start noticing everything. You start connecting dots that were invisible before. And suddenly, the life you thought was perfect starts to feel like a carefully constructed lie. I had a choice. Ignore it and hope I was wrong, or follow the thread and discover the truth, no matter how ugly it might be. I couldn't turn back. Not anymore. The day I decided to see for myself what was happening, my heart was a storm. Every beat pounded with a mix of fear, anger, and the kind of anticipation that makes your hands tremble. I told myself I was being cautious, rational, but deep down, I knew there was no turning back. I needed the truth. And as I followed her to the gym that evening, a cold clarity settled over me. I wasn't just curious anymore. I was determined. I watched from a distance, pretending not to notice, my pulse quickening with every step she took inside. And then I saw him. Yarek Holt. The way he smiled at her. The way she responded. Soft, intimate. A closeness that made my stomach twist. I couldn't breathe. My mind shouted for me to run, to escape this pain, but I stayed rooted. I had to see everything. They trained together, or at least that was the pretense. But it wasn't the exercises, the weights, or the repetition that got to my int. It was the way they laughed, leaned in, and touched in ways that weren't professional. I wanted to scream, to shatter the world around me, but I stayed silent, letting the anger simmer, letting the betrayal sink in like acid. I felt my hands clench into fists, the urge to confront them rising with every heartbeat. And then she noticed me. Just a flicker in her eyes, a split second, and I could see it, the guilt, the panic, the flash of fear. She tried to mask it with a casual smile, but I wasn't fooled. My chest tightened, my throat ached, and the world seemed to narrow to the two of them. And the truth they had been hiding from me. I realized in that moment that my life, the life I had trusted, cherished, and believed in, had been a lie. Every word, every touch, every promise had been carefully woven around deception. I wanted to confront them right there, to demand answers, to force them to face the pain they had inflicted. But I didn't. I stayed back, my mind already racing with a plan, with proof, with a way to ensure that when the time came, their betrayal would be undeniable, exposed to the world they had thought they could fool. I walked away that night with a heavy heart, but a sharp resolve. Betrayal is a poison, yes, but it's also a signal, a warning. And I was ready to turn that poison into fire, ready to let karma do its work. I knew this was just the beginning. The night after I saw Saren and Yarek together, I didn't sleep, not even for a second. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our marriage, every lie she told so smoothly, every excuse that now made perfect sense. The betrayal had burned its way into my chest, but alongside the pain, something else awakened clarity. A cold, steady clarity that washed away the confusion and left me with one purpose. I wasn't going to confront them empty-handed. I was going to make sure the truth crushed them under its own weight. I realized that anger alone wasn't enough. No shouting, no emotional outburst would do justice to what they had done. If I confronted them without proof, she would twist the story, cry, accuse me of insecurity. She was good at that. Too good. So I decided to become someone she never expected. Calm, observant, and meticulous. If they wanted to play dirty, I would play smarter. Every evening after that gym incident, I began watching her differently. When she told me she'd be late because of leg day, I nodded with a smile that hid 1,000 unspoken truths. When she said she needed extra training before an event, I simply asked her if she wanted me to drive her. The panic in her eyes each time told me more than words ever could. I started collecting everything. Screenshots of messages that popped up a little too boldly. Photos of their not-so-subtle moments at the gym. Notes on the times she left, the hours she returned, the excuses she recycled without shame. I wasn't building a suspicion anymore. I was building a case. And the strange thing, the quieter I became, the bolder they grew. She got careless. He got confident. They started believing they were invincible because I never questioned anything. I learned then that silence is the sharpest weapon because people reveal themselves when they think you're blind. But the moment everything locked into place was when she accidentally left her smartwatch on charge in the kitchen. One tap, one scroll. And every gym session showed heart rate spikes that had nothing to do with workouts. My chest tightened, but I didn't break. Not this time. I felt something shift inside. Meal-like betrayal had finally sharpened into resolve. I knew how it had to end. Not with shouting. Not with begging. Not with tears. No, with truth. With exposure. With justice delivered at the perfect moment when both of them least expected it. And I was ready. More ready than they could ever imagine. The night I decided to confront them, my hands were steady, but my heart raced like a drum in my chest. I told Saren it would be a quiet dinner, just the two of us. A chance to reconnect after her long week at the gym. She smiled at me. That same practiced smile I used to love, completely unaware that the night would turn into her reckoning. And Yarek. He didn't know either. He thought he was clever, untouchable, invisible. When they arrived, I felt the tension settle in the air like thick smoke. I greeted them calmly, casually, but every fiber of my being was alert. I had the evidence, every message, every photograph, every proof of the betrayal she had tried so desperately to hide. I could see it in their eyes, confidence on the surface, but underneath, unease, the flicker of fear they hadn't expected. I didn't waste words. I started slowly, deliberately, letting the tension build. I recounted her gym routines in every text, every flirty word, every late-night excuse. At first, she laughed nervously, like this was some absurd misunderstanding. Her eyes darted to Yarek, searching for an ally, and I could see his panic rising, trying to mask it with a false grin. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I laid it all out. The photos. The messages. The timeline. I watched her face change from smugness to confusion to shock to pure panic. She tried to deny it, to gaslight, to make it seem like I was imagining things, but I had everything, and the truth was heavier than any lie she could muster. And then the anger exploded. Shouts, accusations, and the desperation of someone who realizes the world they carefully constructed is crumbling. I felt my own anger flare, but it was controlled now, precise. Not uncontrolled like before. I let her words bounce off me, let her threats fizzle. The calm truth was louder than any shouting, stronger than any manipulation. Yarek's face went pale as I revealed details only he thought were private. I saw the realization hit both of them simultaneously. They had been caught, fully exposed. The arrogance that had blinded them now shattered into shame and fear. For the first time, they understood that the web they spun could not save them, and karma had arrived not as a whisper but as a storm. By the time the night ended, I wasn't screaming. I wasn't crying. I wasn't begging. I was just standing there, calm, satisfied, knowing the damage had been done. The lies had been stripped bare, and the reckoning had been delivered exactly as it should be. The silence after the confrontation was almost deafening. The storm of betrayal, anger, and exposure had passed, leaving behind a clarity I hadn't felt in months. Saran and Yarek were both shaken, stripped of the arrogance and lies that had once made them untouchable in their own eyes. And I was finally free from the fog that had clouded my mind for so long. Freedom, I realized, didn't always come with celebration. Sometimes it came with quiet, heavy satisfaction, like watching a poisonous snake finally lie still. As I reflected on everything that had happened, I felt a strange calm. Betrayal had a way of scarring you, of leaving wounds that never fully disappear. But revenge, when executed with precision and patience, had a strange kind of beauty. I didn't need to yell or beg or hurt anyone physically. I simply let the truth speak louder than lies ever could, and the consequences fell into place naturally. Karma, it seemed, had its own rhythm and it was perfect. I thought about how many times I had questioned myself, doubted my instincts, or let fear keep me silent. And I realized that the hardest battles aren't fought with fists, they're fought in patience, in strategy, and knowing exactly when to act. I had turned my pain into power, my heartbreak into clarity. And for the first time in months, I felt like I had control over my life again. Saren's regret was palpable, the kind that words could never fully capture. Yark's panic was a reminder that no one escapes the consequences of their choices. And I was neither cruel nor vengeful. I was simply present, fully aware, and unshakable. I let them see exactly what their actions had done, not just to me, but to the fragile trust we had shared. And that alone was enough. I looked forward, not back. The memories of betrayal would always linger, but they no longer held power over me. I had reclaimed my peace, my dignity, and my sense of self. The lesson was brutal, but undeniable. Trust is sacred. Lies are heavy. Karma always finds its way, even when you least expect it. To anyone listening, anyone who has felt the sting of betrayal, know this: your pain can either consume you or it can teach you. Your heartbreak can either break you or it can sharpen you. And the world has a way of balancing itself, delivering justice in ways you might never anticipate. I survived, I endured, and I came out stronger. And that, in the end, is everything. So if this story resonated with you, if it made your heart pound or your blood boil, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe, because these lessons aren't just mine. They're universal, and they're waiting for anyone who needs to see the truth laid bare.